Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit. Aurora on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I. Very warm welcome to you. This is the show that you've been waiting for. It's called The Daily Report, where we give you the latest on what's happening in the country. And of course, we give you your climate fix as well. That's going to be happening later on. We have a green warrior tonight. We'll be speaking to her, and I'll let you know details about who exactly she is. My name is Shiksha Arora, and this is TV47, in case you've just joined us. At TV47 Kenya, that's how you can find us on social media, on Facebook, on YouTube. In case you're watching live, well, hello to you. Tell us where you're watching from, and we'll definitely be giving you a shout out later on as well. Now, in case you need to know the latest on what's happening in the country, well, first things first, let me give you an update on matters health. We have a brand new health CS, so we'll be giving you details on exactly who that is. I'm sure you already know by now, but if you don't, well, wait a little longer because you'll get to know. And of course, speaking of matters health, there is a cholera outbreak in Kisumu County as well, so details on that, plus details coming in from Wajir, and of course a story that you definitely would want to hear more about. That is a police officer in Haiti who disappeared. Where is he? His family is demanding for answers. Stay tuned for all that and much more. My name is Shiksha Arora. This is The Daily Report. Top on The Daily Report. The family of Benedict Kabiru Kuria, a Kenyan police officer whose whereabouts remain unknown in Haiti, is urgently calling for answers regarding his disappearance.
Kama wamempata tuambiwe, kama wamempata ako mgonjwa tuambiwe, lakini wasituweke ati sasa wagoje, hapana. Let us know immediately.
Top military and NIS officials raised their voices against the Ruto must go movement, saying that the president's removal must follow constitutional procedures. Who is this man, Duale? Tonight, we focus on Aiden Duale, the newly appointed Health Cabinet Secretary, who embarks on his fourth reassignment since President William Ruto took office. Welcome back, and tonight's top story, the family of Benedict Kabiru Kuria, a Kenyan police officer deployed in Haiti, is desperately seeking answers about his whereabouts. Kuria went missing after an ambush during a recovery operation in the RT Bonite region. Despite mounting concerns, both the National Police Service and the Kenyan government have remained tight-lipped, refusing to confirm his status. Sheila Chelengat now reports.
Famanda village in Kikuyu constituency, home to Kenyan police officer Benedict Kabiru Kuria, who has been serving in the multinational security support mission for the last 8 months, over 12,000 kilometers away in the Caribbean nation, Haiti. News of his unknown whereabouts in the gang-dominated Haiti has caused a stir in this quiet village, with villagers flocking his mother's home to console her after news of his disappearance in Haiti.
Wakakuja na sub-chief, as-chief na mtu ya nyumba 10. Wote walikuja jana asubuhi kuleta ripoti Kafiru amepotea. Lakini hawajaleta ripoti Kafiru amekufa. Maneno yangu na yeye ya mwisho ilikuwa ako karibu kumaliza sasa. Akaniambia, "Mom, I have a lot of plan for you. Nakuja, I say to you. Nakuja nikuweke nikuseto, ninakuja." Yesterday hata nilikuwa nimemwandikia ka message morning.
Videos circulating online alleging that the body of an officer lying on the ground in bloody uniform is that of Kafiru. Information that Kafiru's mother and wife are now privy to and has left them quite distressed.
Tangu jana usiku ndio nilipata the first report ati kijana yangu ameaga. Na shida tu, kila mtu anatuma, mwingine anatuma akichapwa, mwingine anatuma amekatakatwa. Sasa hiyo ni mambo yenye inaudhi familia yetu.
The National Police Service, however, is yet to confirm the status of the missing officer, even as the service indicates that already a search and rescue operation is underway. But for Jacinta, the cloud of uncertainty over her son's status continues to weigh down heavily on her.
Wenye wanatumia mitandao, tafadhali waache kueneza venye Kafiru amekufa, Kafiru ako hai, na Kafiru ataishi, na Kafiru ataendelea.
According to news agency Reuters, local media outlets in Haiti have reported this incident as the second casualty since the start of the MSS operations.
Hiyo ndio tegemeo letu, tegemeo ya familia, tegemeo ya kila mtu kwa hii familia. Ni familia dogo. Sasa serikali, mimi nataka kijana yangu na nipewe ripoti haraka iwezekanavyo.
Tumepewa matumaini, naweza muona. Najua nikaa kwa hai, nina matumaini.
The government's silence, however, gives her hope of seeing her son once again. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
Right now, moving on to matters health, where the Kisumu County Health Department has confirmed a cholera outbreak in Onjiko, Nyando sub-county. Laboratory tests have verified the presence of the disease, with 6 people testing positive. Health officials are now on high alert as efforts to contain the outbreak intensify. Chichi Josephine has the details.
The Kisumu County Health Department has confirmed a cholera outbreak following positive test results for 6 people.
So far, 15 cases have been identified with diarrhea, of which 6 were found to be positive for rapid diagnostic test for cholera, and they have been treated. Only 1 is right now in the ward as at yesterday.
Kisumu County Health Boss Dr. Gregory Ganda and the Director of Public Health, Frederick Oloch, have urged the residents to be cautious by maintaining proper hygiene standards to curb the spread of the disease.
We are also urging the public only to eat hot meals. Do not eat cold food. We are advising them to have hand washing facilities. We are advising them to wash fruits before they eat. We are also urging them to treat water or boil before they use.
The county government is closely monitoring the situation and has begun educating members of the public on how to protect themselves from cholera infections.
Usually when we have an outbreak of a disease, a confirmatory test has to be done, and once the confirmatory test was done, we activated the Emergency Operations Center.
We are doing a lot of community sensitization. There are people on the ground who are sensitizing and health educating, creating awareness on the existence of this diarrheal disease, acute diarrheal disease, which is basically mostly unfortunate that there is also cholera.
Currently, 15 people are experiencing diarrhea-related symptoms, with 6 confirmed cholera cases in Nyando. Chichi Josephine, TV47.
Right. Meanwhile, after completion of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission chairperson interviews, the selection panel has commenced the search for the IEBC commissioners, with 6 of them facing the selection panel on Thursday. After a month-long exercise, the panel is set to select and present 9 names to President William Ruto, who will then appoint 6 commissioners and 1 chairperson to meet the stipulated number of 7 IEBC commissioners.
I would like to just...
The first to face the panel on Thursday morning was Dr. Abdelba Molu, who assured that if selected as a commissioner, he would work tirelessly in an aim to foster trust between the electoral body and Kenyans.
There must be that collegiality in terms of how we discharge our mandate.
Molu was, however, grilled on the decision made by him and his wife to apply for the IEBC job, to which he stated that he did not expect that both of them would be shortlisted to promote regional balance.
Do you have any relationship with any of the shortlisted candidates?
Yes.
Who's that?
There is a Dr. Rukia who is listed as one of the applicants for the commission.
What is the relationship?
She's my spouse.
Thank you.
What would you tell this committee if by chance it was to find that both you and your wife make it?
Thank you, Prof. It will be double blessing, but but I know that the committee is seized with the responsibility to have the face of Kenya, to have all different types, and I don't expect that both of us, even if she wasn't my spouse.
I'll be bound to pursue public interest rather than a personal interest. And I've done severally that when I was a deputy governor. I faced where issues come to my desk.
Apologies for that. Seems to be a technical error, but we will try and get that story back to you at a later time. But for now, moving on, a family in Wajir County is crying for justice after their 17-year-old daughter was burnt to death by people alleged to have been forcing her to marriage. The minor from a Dagale refugee camp sent a distressed voice recording to her mother on Saturday evening before she was killed in the house of an old man who was set to marry her. This story was produced by Michael Callow and voiced by Andrine Kilemi.
The 17-year-old girl raised in Dagale refugee camp was living with her mother and her stepfather. She is alleged to have been married off to an old man in Wara of Ademasajida ward in Wajir West constituency. The girl was transported to Wara area at night from a refugee camp and delivered to her to-be husband at 2:30 a.m. where she first met him. The young girl is said to have refused to accept the marriage. According to the voice recording, her husband and his close relatives tried to force her to accept the marriage. She sent the voice recording to her mother, with her perpetrators allegedly taking advantage of her vulnerability as an underage refugee girl. On Saturday night, she made a desperate call to her mother and stepfather, narrating that he was about to be killed, and revealed the planners.
hadaldantinas ne udhanaa karaan habeen kastoo aa lii dilaa meeshaan ninkuma haysti 24 saac baa lii dilaa dilku xasi idinka waa laygu noqday idinka dilku xasi hadda waxaad dhehaysinana waa maqlayo warka soo gagabeynaysa 24 saac baa lii dilaa anidaanka intaan isdhay xaanina ma ahani waxaan waa laygu soo qayaanay nahabkan oo qaaxinka wareer baadiya idinka aad u garabgeli haysiin waxa jira ma jirto kow dhawaada waxa jira ma jirto waxaani ma aha
May her soul rest in peace and may justice be served. Now moving on, tonight Cabinet Secretary Aden Duale has once again been moved. His fourth reassignment since President William Ruto took office. This time he takes the helm at the Ministry of Health. Duale, who hails from the northeastern region, is widely regarded as Ruto's key political ally in the area and a strategic figure in securing votes ahead of the 2027 general election. But who is Aden Duale and why does he continue to be a central figure in Ruto's administration? Lennox Sengre has these details.
I am now the Minister for Health.
Aden Bare Duale on Wednesday found himself in the shifting chessboard of President William Ruto's administration, sitting in the fourth ministry as a CS.
I, Aden Duale.
In just 2.5 years, Duale has moved from defense to environment and now to the highly sensitive health ministry. But is Duale the right man for the job? Is he a qualified technocrat or has he simply become Ruto's trusted lieutenant, his go-to man in terms of cabinet reshuffles?
Cabinet Secretary Duale is more an individual, not the problem. He is a symptom of the issue.
You know, when I was being vetted, my first vetting, I was Minister for Defense. So I went and read everything about defense.
Duale was among the original 22 cabinet secretaries picked by President William Ruto, an early sign of trust in his leadership. His tenure as defense CS was flawed by historical anti-government protest in June last year during the Gen Z uprising against the Finance Bill 2024.
To climate security. Now I have come back to human health.
Then, in a surprising twist, Ruto reshuffled his cabinet just 4 days later, swapping Duale with Soipan Tuya in the Environment Ministry.
The symptom is not who is in that office. The issue is good governance being delivered by the Kenya Kwanza government?
In less than a year later, another cabinet shake-up sees Duale taking over the health docket, replacing Dr. Deborah Barasa, who moves to environment. But his new assignment comes with major hurdles, key among them the rollout of the controversial Social Health Authority SHA, which has been met with intense criticism.
Is that SHA does not work. SHA, it does not work. It's the only song we sing. That instead of the government addressing that issue, they appoint a different person to deal with the same problem.
But will Duale weather the storm at the health ministry, or is he for his toughest test yet? Lennox Sengre, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, only 2 members of the cabinet have retained their positions as assigned during the first announcement of the cabinet. The 2 are Musalia Mudavadi, who, however, has had additional responsibilities of the Foreign Affairs docket, while from the original Prime Cabinet Secretary, and Monica Juma, who has retained her role as an advisor on security. And as Elizabeth Mutuku now reports, many of those who started in the cabinet journey have been kicked out.
Musalia Mudavadi and Monica Juma are the only people who might have retained the original assigned roles. For Musalia Mudavadi, however, his docket got added responsibilities as the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs after the first cabinet reshuffle.
We commit the people of Kenya.
Several of those who had made it to President William Ruto's cabinet list have been kicked out so far. They include Professor Njuguna Ndung'u of the Treasury, Aisha Juma, who had been tasked to spearhead the Ministry of Public Service, Zakaria Njeru, who served as Cabinet Secretary for Lands, and Penina Malonza, who made a short stint at the Ministry of Tourism before being kicked out. Mithika Linturi, Ababu Namwamba, Simon Chelgui and Flores Bore were also kicked out after the first reshuffle. Eliud Owalo and Moses Kuria were reassigned to the Presidential Advisor on Economic Affairs, while Susan Nakumicha had been moved to ambassadorial position after months in the cold. Ezekiel Machogu was kicked out just like Justin Biden Muturi, who was kicked out on Wednesday. The shifts have seen Aden Duale, one of President William Ruto's confidants, moved from the Ministry of Defense, which he was initially assigned to Environment, and the latest reassignment to Health Ministry.
And who is more believing in the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza? Who is more aware and cognizant of the manifesto of the ruling coalition, if not Duale, the president's right-hand man from the word go, the one who helped him set up the vehicle with which they ran for office. And Duale is at home, and that's why he is giving it his utmost, and that is why the president keeps moving him to all the places where firefighting is needed.
Salim Vuria has since been moved from mining docket to trade and finally now to sports. Soipan Tuya has been moved to defense from environment, while Kipchumba Murkomen has been moved from transport to sports and finally interior. Other shifts involve David Chirchir from energy to transport, while Rebecca Miano has been moved from ESC to Office of AG, which she never reported to, and to tourism, which she is currently holding. Alice Wahome has also been moved during the reshuffle, as well as Alfred Mutua, who is currently the CS Labour. Professor Kithure Kindiki, who is Deputy President, started as the Cabinet Secretary of Interior, while Justin Biden Muturi, who was finally kicked out on Thursday after moving from AG to public service and finally kicked out. After her reassignment in the environment docket, Deborah Barasamulongo was in West Pokot for tree planting exercise on Thursday. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
In other news, the Kenya Defence Forces is now warning those chanting against President William Ruto and the government that they must do so within the law. And as Samira Mohammed now reports, the KDF boss Charles Kahariri has further clarified that the Gazette notice to deploy the military to support the police is yet to be revoked.
Ruto must go. The scenes at Nyayo National Stadium Sunday. In Naivasha during the WRC Safari Rally, Ruto must go, since that have now become the order in entertainment joints and other social places. The Kenya Defence Forces is now warning that all these must be done with the law.
So wakati watu wanaamua kwamba tumechoka na hii serikali na mulichagua wenyewe, alafu mnasema must go. That must go must be done according to the constitution.
Kenyans have been expressing their displeasure with the current government, chanting Ruto must go in various places. This is the first time the military boss is speaking on the matter. The sentiments comes just days before President William Ruto tours the Mount Kenya region, a region that has been termed to be cold for the president since the impeachment of his former deputy Rigathi Gachagua last year. The chief of the Defence Forces, Charles Kahariri, says their mandate is to protect elected government. Kahariri, for the first time, also responded to claims of the use of military during the Gen Z-led protest last year.
This issue of how politics goes and all that, And by the way, the military, one of the core values is that we are apolitical. We don't support any political side. We defend the Constitution and the government of the day, duly elected by the people.
Last week, Defense Cabinet Secretary Soipan Tuya said the KDF deployment order from June 2024 remains active, adding that there is ongoing court case on the matter.
If there is a problem, it will be the implementation and the people given the responsibility to implement the laws. But the laws as they are constitutional and they respond to a democratic thirst.
Without cohesion, there is no national security. We also need to repair our broken political landscape to create a resilient state and nation. As a nation, we must pivot on an uncompromising commitment to our democratic polity.
Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Now, several activities have been going on in the Mount Kenya region in preparation for the much-awaited President William Ruto's tour. Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki spent the better part of his day in the counties of Kiambu and Murang'a, setting the ground ready for the president next week. And as Eric Munene now reports, the tour has raised mixed reactions within the region. Take a look.
In Murang'a County, Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki was inspecting development projects in Mathioya constituency. Kindiki, while promising that the stalled projects will be completed, urged the locals to welcome the president next week.
Tumehakikisha kwamba sehemu zote za Murang'a County ambazo hazina stima zitawekwa stima, na jambo la tatu ni kwamba vile tumeendelea na hii mjengo, tumeendelea na barabara zetu ikiwemo barabara ya Maumau ambayo sasa imerejelewa, contractor amerudishwa, pesa imepatikana, ile ilikuwa imepotea. Kwa hivyo tunataka tuseme ya kwamba pia rais atembee hapa.
Kindiki will later in the afternoon inspect projects in Limuru, Kiambu County, where he promised that the president will ensure all the campaign projects are fulfilled.
The ideology that enabled him to get to the pinnacle of power in Mount Kenya is gone. That miracle has dissipated. So it's a waste of time to that extent. But for a politician, it is not. Come to think about it, it is not.
Kindiki was in Embu County on Wednesday inspecting projects that the president is set to launch or commission during his much-awaited tour of the region next week. Another project that was at the center of focus in the Mount Kenya region was the Rurengo Stadium in Nyeri County, which has stalled for close to 8 years now. Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria toured the project on Thursday. Nyeri governor would, however, not fail to criticize the government, urging it not to use the stadium as a political tool for the president's tour.
The wait has been long. So we pray, number one, we ask the president, we have heard you. Awache ukae kwa hiyo kazi yetu ndio utumalizie. Because the turnover is becoming too much.
Looping in of KDF is a big plus. In fact, I made that request to the president immediately after KDF was locked in to prepare the stadiums for CHAN and AFCON.
We have decided also with the direction of His Excellency the President to have prototype stadiums across the country. And the prototype design for Nyeri Rurengo Stadium will be a 15,000-seater.
The Kenya Defence Forces has been tasked to complete the stadium. The Ministry of Housing is also in a rush to prepare the way for Ruto in the housing projects in Murang'a and Kirinyaga, among other counties in the region.
The game now, which I'm sure William Ruto is going to play, is the game of hunter-gatherer game. Because you don't have a granary of anything that you can tell people that that's my stock of food. So what you have to do is gather roots, berries here, grains here, leaves there, and then put them together and say, this is my food. It's a hunter-gatherer game.
The president is set to tour the region starting Tuesday next week, 6 months after the impeachment of his former deputy, Rigathi Gachagua.
Now tonight, a major showdown looms in the Mount Kenya region between President William Ruto and his former deputy, Rigathi Gachagua. Now, over the impending Bere North by-elections, which the two leaders will use to test the influence in the region while using it as a dress rehearsal for the 2027 presidential poll. Political leaders and observers hold that the sacking of Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi was a challenge to Gachagua and a dilemma for the president struggling to win the region's support.
President William Ruto's decision to sack Public Service Cabinet Secretary Justin Muturi and pick his Democratic Party ally, Bere North MP Geoffrey Ruku, occasioning a mini poll, has jolted the Mount Kenya region, with leaders accusing the president of inciting the region using divide and rule tactics.
When you throw somebody out of office, na kesho yake uende kule kwa mulima, to me, William is also trying to incite the mountain. And the mountain must be very clever and very careful, because that incitement is meant to isolate them as a community from among others, so that eventually the 41 against 1 works in this country.
The Bere North by-election, expected after the new IEBC team is sworn into office, is a litmus test not just for President William Ruto, who has fallen out with the region, but former DP Rigathi Gachagua, who will use the by-election to test his influence in the populous region.
And he can be in a position to know, you are saying that the ground is hostile. To what extent is the ground hostile? How will I manage the ground or the population between now and the elections?
Gachagua, who toured Kiserian in Kajiado County, announced his new party to be launched in May, will field candidates in the forthcoming by-elections, including in Bere North, facing off with Ruto's UDA, a party he is using as a dress rehearsal for 2027, and remove the yellow from the mountain, according to his allies.
Tutasimamisha kutoka rais, governor, senator, mbunge, women rep, mpaka MCA. Muko tayari?
With Ruku supporters celebrating in Nairobi and Chicago over his CS nomination to the public service docket, analysts are keenly watching whether Ruku will have an influence in delivering the UDA vote against Gachagua's onslaught.
Ruku is the best person, is the most competent person kupewa ile kazi. So tunashukuru rais kwa amechagua huyu Ruku.
I'm sure they are witnesses of how active and hardworking Kiringa is, our MP. I'm sure most of us have seen the first tarmac being done in his term.
Na tunaamini ya kwamba hii sekta yenye ametumwa inaleta nafasi mingi, inaleta kazi na inaleta opportunities, na pia inafungua ili hii area yetu ya Bere North yenye imekuwa imetengwa sana.
The by-election, the first in the populous Mount Kenya region, will also be a litmus test for Deputy President Kithure Kindiki on his influence in Mount Kenya East. Apol Kamau, TV47.
Now, the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua today left his Mount Kenya region comfort zone and took his campaigns to Kiserian in Kajiado County in a bid to charm the Ma community into joining his new party, which is set to be unveiled in May. Gachagua stated that the Ma community would get a seat at his table, promising to grant his party's national chairperson slot to them. The second deputy president's visit comes days after his die-hard supporter, Githunguri Member of Parliament Gathoni Wamuchomba, advised him to consider visiting other regions. Gachagua spoke when addressing a crowd in Kiserian town after enjoying lunch in the area with his political allies.
Kwa hivyo sisi tumeamua tunaunda chama yetu ya siasa, na hiyo chama watu ya Kajiado ndio mtaongoza hiyo chama, na chama yetu mpya tutatangaza mwezi wa 5, na national chairman wa chama chetu mpya atatoka hapa Kajiado, na hiyo chama tutasimamisha kutoka rais, governor, senator, mbunge, women rep mpaka MCA. Muko tayari? nataka niambie watu ya Kiserian, hai kaunti ya Kajiado na hapa Kiserian, naomba nyinyi muishi kwa amani.
All right, here's what's coming up after the break. Also coming up, Kenyan national football team goalkeeper Patrick Matasi is under scrutiny after a secretly recorded video surfaced, allegedly involving discussions of fixing an upcoming match. Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Welcome back. Now, in a bid to cement his political stronghold, hold, President William Ruto has shifted his focus to the lower eastern region. Now, just days after hosting leaders from central and western Kenya, he convened a high-profile meeting this morning with MPs and key political figures from Machakos, Kitui and Makueni counties. The gathering is widely seen as part of his strategy to solidify support for his administration. Kyalo has more. Now, for 6 months, a leadership standoff has thrown Nyamira County into turmoil, with governance grinding to a near halt. The assembly is now split with two rival factions, one operating at the grassroots and the other at the official county assembly. Initially, 18 representatives backed the breakaway group, but defections have left them with only 10. The infighting continues to stall essential services and financial management. Take a look.
Despite 8 ward representatives joining the second faction of the Nyamira County Assembly, led by Speaker Enoch Okero, the faction allied to Thaddeus Nyabaro was elected as the Speaker, but barred by the court from conducting assembly proceedings. It remains with 9 ward representatives.
Speaker's friends who have joined us.
Okero's faction has retained 20 ward representatives. The assembly now consists of a total of 30 ward representatives.
The Punge Mashinan was never gazetted. It's not gazetted to carry the operations of the County Assembly of Nyamira or to act in any way on behalf of the County Assembly of Nyamira. Whatever they are doing outside there, it's illegal. County gani umesikia iko na bunge mbili.
The leadership dispute, which has persisted for 6 months, has affected county employees and ward representatives who have not received their salaries and allowances.
Tunauliza serikali yetu kuu, kwa nini inaangalia haya mambo yakifanyika? Jambo la kustajabisha ni kwamba wameenda mpaka Central Bank, wamepatirisha signatories, yani ya kwamba wanataka kuiba pesa hadharani beupe.
The Controller of Budget, Margaret Nyakango, has now asked the Nyamira County Government to clarify on the legitimate officials of the County Assembly. As the leadership dispute continues in the County Assembly, all eyes are now on the courts and the County Government to resolve the disputes.
Now, with Kenya's maternal mortality rate surging, postpartum hemorrhage has been the leading cause, accounting for nearly 40% of deaths. Limited access to quality and affordable maternal health care has worsened the crisis. Now, in an unprecedented move, the Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society and the Kenya Pediatric Association are partnering with religious leaders to raise awareness and curb maternal deaths. Anastasia Mukabi has more.
For years, maternal mortality rate has stagnated at an estimate of around 355 deaths per 100,000 live births, the leading indirect cause to these deaths being postpartum hemorrhage, accounting to 35 to 40%, the contributing factors being cultural practices and beliefs that pose a significant hurdle to curb the maternal morbidity.
Lack of awareness that these mothers need to come to hospital to be assessed every month or every 2 months for that matter. Because according to WHO, we need to see these mothers at least 8 times. Most of them come once or none at all.
To reduce this maternal mortality to 40%, Kenya Obstetrical Gynecological Society and pediatricians held a meeting with religious leaders to enlighten them on the need for the religion to play a role in sensitizing the community on the need of expectant mothers to take maternal health seriously to reduce incidents of PPH.
If we can have a declaration
And on this, I can put my word to it and can convince these religious leaders that for the next 3 months, we make a decision that in our sermons, we talk about maternal, newborn, child, adolescent health.
So having that message percolated to the congregants so that awareness is the first step for everybody.
Kenya's maternal mortality ratio compared to other countries is alarming. Therefore, doctors with the help of technology are trying to adapt successful programs from other countries to cap the PPH rates, calling on the Ministry of Health to improve on data collection to better track maternal mortality trends as well as identifying areas for improvement.
Means you do not have to necessarily donate blood when it's not needed at that particular place. So this is basically deploying technology, deploying our knowledge of our blood groups to be able to donate blood for the need that's there at that particular time. And we really hope that we can be able to work with the Ministry of Health that's very supportive and the other stakeholders to make this concept work in this country.
The reduction of funding from the United States of America to African countries requires the government to invest more into healthcare system and research to address this issue, as 50% survival of the baby is heavily dependent on the mother's survival after birth.
We are asking the government, national government, to put in the funds, equip delivery rooms, because the guest is coming and they are coming every time, any hour. So we have to be ready at all times to receive them.
The goal to zero mortality starts with access to quality health care, addressing postpartum hemorrhage, regular prenatal and postnatal to identify and manage complications, empowering women through education, tackling socio-economic factors like poverty and malnutrition, and implementing research and technological strategies to improve maternal health services. Anastasia Nkabi, TV47, Nairobi.
That word, obstetrical and gynecological, I definitely need to speak to Willis when Betty is on air, as he will be telling me if I pronounced it right after many tries. Moving on. Education Cabinet Secretary Migos Ogamba has welcomed the Court of Appeal's decision to allow the implementation of the new education funding model. Speaking at the County Education Day held at Homa Bay High School, Ogamba reaffirmed the government's commitment to rolling out the model swiftly to ensure students continue learning without financial disruptions. He emphasized that the court ruling provides much-needed clarity and paves the way for a fairer and more accessible education system. On her part, Homa Bay Governor Gladys Wanga urged both national and county governments to work together to ensure higher learning institutions receive adequate support.
As directed by the Court of Appeal, we will publicize the framework to the current and incoming students within the next 14 days. The transformative student-centered funding model for higher education was designed to address the financial challenges that were threatening the sustainability of our universities. Since its introduction in 2023, the government has disbursed a total of 41 billion in student-centered loans and scholarships for the benefit of a total of 240,000 students. At the time the model was introduced, ladies and gentlemen, our public universities were indebted to the tune of almost 61 billion. We will continue with the rollout of the model with the necessary modifications to ensure legal compliance and enhancements, as we believe that it provides a pathway to the sustainability of funding in the subsector.
As a county of endless potential, first of all, we are happy that we are a leader in the region in terms of education. Our responsibility over our children remains for both the county government and the national government. And that is why we have come together as a county government and the national government to organize this County Education Day together. And we will be running other programs together. Where the county can come in, we will come in. Where the national can come in, they will come in. And we move together, moving our education forward.
Now, a birthday celebration in Elementaita, Gilgil turned into a chilling murder plot, leading to the conviction of former United Nations employee Nicholas Koskei. After an 8-year legal battle, a Naivasha court today sentenced Koskei to life in prison for the murder of his wife, Rhoda Mumbi Mutua. The trial, marked by delays and legal twists, has finally come to a close. And our reporter, Willie Dennis Juru, who has followed the case right from the start, brings us this report.
Is the court assistant there?
Yes, my lord, I'm there.
After an 8-year-long legal battle, former United Nations employee Nicholas Koskei has been convicted of murder by the Naivasha High Court. Justice Richard Mwongo, in a ruling delivered on March 4, 2025, found Koskei guilty of killing his wife, Rhoda Mumbi Mutua, in 2017.
The brothers to the husband and one of my nephews, 2 nephews, came and woke me early in the morning and reported me to the incident that Londa has fallen off the bathroom and he has been pinned to the back head and she collapsed. That's only the story I received that morning.
This girl was a gem. The sister I wouldn't even be able to understand or even to explain what kind of a sister she was. She was a lovely girl. She was our last-born sister.
The court ruled that prosecutors proved their cases beyond reasonable doubt, relying on testimony from 17 witnesses, forensic reports, and circumstantial evidence that placed Koskei at the center of the chilling murder. On 8th July 2017, Rhoda Mumbi Mutua traveled with her distraught husband, Nicholas Koskei, to Jacaranda Lake Elementaita Lodge in Gilgil, Nakuru County, that was meant to be a romantic getaway, reportedly intended to celebrate Koskei's 36th birthday and harness their matrimony.
When he checked in, he requested for a room with a bathtub, and that was provided. Then, after checking in, they took some time in the room, then came down for a cup of tea and a beer. They sat by the poolside, then later went to the room for a shower.
The court was told the two would walk in this pathway to their room numbered 17 at the hotel, with a tragic ending as Mumbi was found dead in the hotel room's bathtub later that night.
It was a weekend that we hoped to enjoy with the family. Unfortunately, it turned out to be the way it went.
A reservation had been made on July the 5th, 2017, with an explicit customer request from a room with a bathtub. But that night, tragedy struck.
We miss her dearly. And the fact that we have not gotten justice for the last 8 years, it has been quite a tedious journey, all the way to Naivasha every year. At least now we can be able to breathe and say that our God is faithful. He has done it for us.
During the preliminaries, the demonstration and enactment of the scene was clear as the hotel played a significant role in the witness to the case.
Hata kama umesleep, lazima kuwe na maji kidogo inatoka kwa flow.
Yani awache hii mastarehe hapa hivi, instead ya kunywa hapa, achukue glass ya wine na chupa ya wine aketi akae pale alale kwa bathroom akunywa akiwa pale.
Investigators treated the death as suspicious from the onset. Koskei claimed that he left Mumbi preparing to take a bath while he walked out to make phone calls. The court found Koskei culpable of ensnaring his wife to the hotel under the disguise of a romantic retreat before killing her in what was described as a premeditated crime.
No to femicide for not only Rhoda, but even other victims of so many cases that we've had in our country.
In an attempt to cover his tracks, Koskei returned to their hotel room after allegedly stepping out to make phone calls, found the door locked, and sought for the extra key from the hotel reception to room access. Eyewitnesses recall seeing Koskei and Mumbi at the poolside before retreating to their room, after which Koskei was later spotted outside, allegedly jogging in slippers in the dark.
Eventually, he was taken to the front desk where he was given a security guard who came with him with an extra key, and they came and opened the room, and only to find what had happened. It was unfortunate, but it happened that night.
On accessing the room, Mombi was found lifeless in the bathtub, naked, with one leg sagging off the bathtub. Kosgei insisted that she had drowned after consuming sleeping pills. Post-mortem reports conducted by government pathologists were contrary to his claims, with no traces of drugs in her system, nor indication of drowning. In its place, her body displayed injuries commensurate to strangulation and a head wound signifying a struggle before her demise. Further, the drowning claims quashed for the bathroom floor was completely dry.
No, there were no clothes there.
So she must have undressed on the other side.
There were no clothes there.
You can say that one would not just fall just in slide.
No,
slide.
It is not.
Kosgei had been out on a 300,000 shillings bond as the case suffered years of delays. Rhoda Mombi's murder just adds to the growing femicide cases in Kenya, adjournments in persecution, coupled with recuse concerns and graft within the legal process.
Postmortem came out that Londa died out of mechanical strangulation and stuffing. Yeah, we started wondering how people who have been very close to me and who looked to be very close to each other, how they can end up in this kind of circumstance.
Mombi, born on May 28, 1983, was laid to rest on July 22, 2017 at her father's home in Iruku village, Chuka, Tharaka Nithi County, after she lost her life in a murder most fall on the 8th of July, same year.
Hatukuwa tunamaliza akiwa kwake, ananipigia simu kila siku, tunaongea every day. Na hatukuwa tunamaliza wiki mbili bila Londa kutembea kwangu na kufanya together. Yeye mwenyewe ndiye alikuwa na organize.
Today, family and friends gathered at the hotel, planting trees in her memory. Mombi is survived by 2 sons.
Londa was one of those persons who did things very carefully, very accurately, and she was a very intelligent girl.
It has been quite a long and tedious journey that is not a walk in the park. Finally, justice has come to place for one Rhoda Mombi Mutua. Reporting for TV47 from Elementaita in Nakuru County, I'm Willie Dennis Njero.
All right, and that takes us directly into the world of business, where Equity Group has announced a proposed dividend of 4.25 shillings per share, reflecting a payout ratio of 34.5%. Now, this comes alongside a significant 11% increase in earnings per share, which has risen to 12.3 shillings. The strong performance is attributed to the bank's continued focus on diversification, innovation, and regional expansion. The company has also reported a 12% growth in profit after tax, which now stands at 48.8 billion shillings. These results highlight Equity Group's resilience and commitment to maintaining a strong financial position while delivering value to shareholders. The bank continues to expand its footprint across the region, leveraging to technology and strategic investments to drive growth with these impressive financial results. Equity Group remains focused on strengthening its market position and enhancing shareholders' returns.
Look at revenue. The region is outperforming Kenya. 54% of our revenue is from the region. And when you look at profit before provisions, 55% is from the region. Profit before tax, 54%. And we feel very confident that we have de-risked the sovereign risk of head office. And this is when you know you are successful.
All right, moving on now. HF Group has reported a 35% increase in net profit for the 2024 financial year, rising from 388 million shillings in 2023 to 525 million shillings. The growth is attributed to the company's successful business transformation strategy, which has seen all subsidiaries post profitability gains over the past 3 years. CEO Robert Kibara attributed the positive performance to the group's diversification into new business areas, including business banking, property and custodial solutions. The company's non-funded income also grew by 21%, rising from 1.24 billion shillings to 1.51 billion shillings, driven by increased foreign exchange income from its banking subsidiary and higher project management fees from its property division.
Our businesses, starting with the group, have actually made very good progress. Total assets up 14% to hit 70 billion. On the profitability side, our profit after tax is up 35%, driven mainly because of the growth of income. So we've seen our interest income up 23% and non-funded income up 21%. We've kept a good control of costs. So it's a nice, steady, growing business. When we turn now to the actual specific businesses, HFC has done very well. Growth in profitability, growth in deposits, slight growth in loans, and growth in total assets. HFDI, which is our property business, continues to do very well. Actually, it's the fastest growing business in our portfolio. Has doubled in profitability from 2023 to 2024.
Now, popular food chain Java House has partnered with Manza Kenya to convert used cooking oil from its restaurants into biodiesel. This initiative has already led to a reduction of 148 tons of carbon emissions. Java House CEO Priscilla Gathungu is now calling on restaurants and eateries to take the lead in driving sustainable change by adopting environmentally conscious practices. She emphasized the importance of tackling deforestation, global warming and climate change through responsible business operations.
We have to be able to instill the culture of sustainability, the culture of taking care of our environment. So for us, trees really do help in terms of the catchment areas. Right now we are in planting season, it's raining, we are thanking God for that, but we have to be able to leave a better future for the guys who are coming after us.
It is bigger than just, trees today. It is looking at what we are setting up the future for. We feed the future, and for that we have to depend on trees at some point.
So nothing better than to teach young people and students and learners the importance of planting trees so that they too can pay it forward.
Sports news brought to you by Maybets. Bet bila stake. Predict the outcome of 8 pre-selected games and win up to 100,000 shillings. Only at maybets.com.
All right, immersing ourselves into the world of sports, where national men's football team goalkeeper Patrick Matasi is facing match-fixing allegations after a secretly recorded video surfaced earlier today. The video captures a conversation where two parties are discussing about the outcome of an upcoming football game. This has drawn reactions from different quarters, forcing Football Kenya Federation to step in. And as our reporter Duncan Mutua now explains, Matasi has a case to answer.
Give you a phone call, and boss will confirm you have received. Okay. Then deal is on. Okay. That first half draw, what we want must come. Okay. Then my deal should not go to any.
This secretly recorded video has landed Harambee Stars goalkeeper Patrick Matasi in a hot soup. The conversation captured between the parties involved has raised questions about match-fixing allegations.
Can you promise us that first half 2 goals, as we don't need anything else, like do this first half, 2 goals. And why we are asking you to concede is because we know one.
We will open the match.
When you concede, you open the game.
Yeah.
The video has attracted mixed reaction from different quarters, including Harambee Stars captain Michael Olunga and Kenya Police FC defender Abdur Omar on their social media platforms.
Katika hiyo ofisi ambayo ni federation, wao ndio wanatakiwa tupatie guidance, watuambie huyu mchezaji ako na makosa, lakini bila kusema kwamba yeye ako na makosa yote. Mimi kama chairman wa Homeboys na timu ya Kakamega Homeboys tumesema kwamba Matasi hata hii game inakuja ya KCB, kama coach atasema anatoshea kucheza, atacheza.
Football Kenya Federation was also forced to respond through a statement which they released today afternoon. FKF said that investigations are underway in collaboration with the World Governing Body, FIFA, and Confederation of African Football, CAF, and other agencies.
So, mimi kama hapa Kenya nimesema na bado narudia. Match fixing hapa Kenya iko kubwa sana na teams zina fix games. Sio itakuwa ya kwanza kwa hiyo Matasi huko. Timu mingi zina fix game. Na mimi siwezi kukubali kwamba nikubali timu kama mimi nimetoa pesa, imeenda kuhakikisha nimepeleka wachezaji camp, wachezaji wakitoka huko wakuja wamefix game. Inaumiza sana na inaumiza sana.
The 37-year-old was part of the national team which played home and away against Cameroon in their Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers last October, where Kenya lost 4-1 in Group J. The former shortstop of FC Leopard and Tusker also featured in the national team which lost to Iran 2-1 in a friendly match played in Tehran in March 2023. Matasi was also part of the Kenya Police FC contingent which was bundled out of the CAF Confederation Cup by Zamalek in September 2024. The 6-foot-tall keeper spent 2 years at Kenya Police Sacco Stadium before setting base earlier this year at the current club Kakamega Homeboys.
Mimi niko na sponsor ambaye anaitwa Mozart Bet. Hakuna vile nitakubalia kitu kama ikuwe katika zile ile agreement yetu na Mozart Bet ni ku make sure game iko fair, sio mambo ya kufix game. So kama mimi sitakubalia match fixing, but kwa Matasi, mimi Matasi ako kwa payroll na akipatikana makosa ndio tutachukua hatua.
In March 2023, a Kenyan and 2 foreigners were arrested for allegedly bribing Nairobi City Stars players to fix their top-flight game against Sofapaka. They were later charged in court and released after paying fines. In February 2023, 2 players from Mathare United were barred from taking part in any football-related activities, pending a match-fixing syndicate. In 2021, 6 players from Zuke Richo FC were found guilty of match-fixing by FIFA Integrity Unit and were expelled from the Kenya Premier League. In February 2020, FIFA banned 4 Kenyan players, including 1 for life, for taking part in an international conspiracy to fix league matches. Duncan Mutua, TV47 Sports.
Now, the national government and the county government of Nyeri have revived the construction of Ruringu Stadium. The facility has been downscaled to a 15,000 capacity from its previous 20,000-seater, and the stadium is being earmarked to be one of the venues for the African Nations Championships, scheduled for August this year, where Kenya is co-hosting with Uganda and Tanzania. It is one of the high-altitude training grounds in the country, which was commissioned in 2017 by former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Earlier today, Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Vuria and Nyeri County Governor Mutahi Kaiga toured the facility.
We want to unlock so that this Ruringu story, we can close it, once and for all. So that is why I'm here today. And from here, I will also be visiting other counties. I'll be going to Murang'a. We have also processes to unlock Kirubia. I was in Kirigiti last 2 weeks, where we have already addressed the challenges that are there.
This was among the first standard stadiums to be put up in Kenya. Greats like Kipchoge Keino have done their practices here before going to win medals for Kenya. So let us not allow this glory to disappear.
Waziri, most of the people you are seeing here ni wachezaji. The 2 biggest teams, Marafiki and Rware City, they are here. We have a team from the community here, known as the Classic of FC, they are here. As you can see, even with the state of the tartan, our athletes are training here.
Now, former Kenya Volleyball Champions General Service Unit, that's GSU, thrashed National Youth Service, as NYS, 3-1. Earlier today, in the Men's Kenya Volleyball Federation Premier League match played at Nyayo Stadium in Nairobi. And of course, this is in another match. Trail Blazers saw off Kenya Forest Service, that's KFS, 3-1. While Kenya Defence Forces, that's KDF, clobbered Kenya Airport Police Unit Kapu, 3-1. The games continue on Friday with Western Prison taking on NYS, while Kenya Prisons will entertain Mount Kenya Base Yetu. All right, and with that, let's take a short break. But after we come back from the break, we are going to be answering the big why today, and we need your help in telling us how many trees have you planted. Please do let us know. You know the WhatsApp number, it's going to be on your screen. And of course, you can also find us on social media at TV47 Kenya, that's on Facebook, as well as X, and on YouTube. If you're watching us live, please do reply on the comment section. How many trees have you planted? That's our big why today. We'll also be having a very interesting conversation with Bila Duseka, and of course she's going to be giving us more details about what she does and how she makes sustainability, going green, being eco-friendly look so exciting and trendy. Well, stay with us, all that and much more right after this break. Also coming up, and on the Green Fix, we keep you up to date on the ever-changing landscape. Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor.
Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
All right, welcome back to The Green Fix. I am Shiksha Arora. And of course, we've been asking you a very simple question, the big why. How many trees have you planted? Please do let us know on social media. You can find us on WhatsApp. You can also text us. The numbers should be on your screen. Apart from that, you can also find us on TV47 Kenya. That's our handle on X, as well as Facebook, as well as YouTube. You can also find me, that's at Shiksha Arora, if you would like to message me and tell me how many trees you proudly planted. I would absolutely love to know. Aside from that, remember, we are having our Green Warrior tonight. In fact, she's here with me in studio. She's quite a visionary, and of course, she's somebody who is part of the climate education advocate. And of course, she is a visionary in the sense she's doing things differently. Now, usually when we talk about climate, you know, the one thing that people say is that it's boring, it's not interesting. And how exactly do you pass on the message to people who are young, especially the Gen Zs, as we call them? And of course, now there's a generation Beta, and it goes on and on and on. So we're going to talk about how we create awareness, how we get them to understand what climate change is, and of course, get them to be advocates as well, and try and do their bit. So speaking of which, let's get directly to her. Her name is Bilha Luseka. I hope I said her name right this time round. 1 minute though. All right, so let's take a look at today's Green Warrior. All right, so tonight with me, my green warrior is the founder of the African Cool Kid movement, and she's leading a bold mission to make climate change and climate action accessible as well as exciting and relatable. And that's exactly what I was telling you. When it comes to this continent's youth, they like to do things differently. And that's why she has decided to do things differently as well. She is not your average climate advocate. She is not your cliche climate advocate. And I love that she's using creative storytelling to be a part of what she is and her mission. So let's get right into this conversation. Her name is Bilha Luseka. Welcome to Green Fix, and we're happy to host you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Likewise as well. So, I'm just looking at your biography, and it's so impressive to see how you're doing things differently. You're very unique. You're trying to make climate action, climate advocacy much more relatable, much more interesting. And I absolutely love that. So maybe you can tell us more about what you do.
Okay, so my name is Bilha Luseka, as you've said. I am a zillennial. I like to think of myself as a zillennial, and the reason I say this is because I want for people to understand that I'm communicating to people I understand, a blend between millennials and Gen Zs.
Okay.
I'm a creative storyteller. My background is actually in TV. I used to be on the other side of the screen
wow.
for a very long time, and a climate education advocate. I tackle climate education through creative storytelling. And the whole idea behind the African Cool Kid was, if you remember growing up in the late 2000s when we were 16, being a cool kid meant everything,
Right.
Everybody wanted to be a cool kid. And so I thought, why not start a movement of African cool kids, but not just cool in the sense that, we'd wear trendy clothes, but cool because we're literally trying to make the climate cooler.
Okay.
So again, engaging and relatable to young people, a name that young people can understand and engage with, so that we can just start making climate conversations a lot more relatable. And I like to use very interesting creative visuals to pass this message across and to kind of have these climate conversations.
Right, so Bilha, maybe you can tell me more about your time and of course the fact that you actually served as project coordinator for the National Geographic Kids Africa Initiative. And this is in an educational series that was filmed across the African continents. And the purpose, the sole purpose of this was to educate and empower children and also to foster the love for conservation. So how was that experience? And for you, why was that so important, especially when it comes to targeting kids in specific?
Okay, so maybe just to take you back a bit.
Yes.
Why did I get into this to begin with? I was a journalist for the longest time. My work was to go out and tell stories.
Yeah.
And the changing point for me was the day I was sent out to do a story in Kibera during the 2022 floods. And we went onto the ground, and as usual, you pitch up your camera, you ask and interview people, and you ask them what happened here last night. Oh, I'm so sorry. But then one person, a young man with a child, actually, he was 16 and yet he had a child. And he came to me and asked me, so what is supposed to happen now? Now that we've lost our homes and our livelihoods, what's supposed to happen? And I thought to myself, you know what? I can't just tell stories anymore. I need to dig deeper. And understanding that climate change, as much as we like to blame the government for all our problems, government has not done proper drainage, government has not done this and that. The weather has been changing a great deal. So the drought and the floods that we've been experiencing are not normal. And so due to heavy rainfall, people have lost their livelihoods, people are losing their homes. We needed to do something about this kind of conversation. And that just kind of set me down the path of conservation and sustainability and climate change, with the first project I was a part of being the National Geographic Kids Africa. And while we were doing that project, it became very apparent that climate change is very complex.
Absolutely.
Because it's already complex for us as adults. So imagine trying to break down climate change to young children. It was a very enlightening year working with the National Geographic and just being able to try and break down these very complex subjects into very relatable conversations.
Right.
And so I thought to myself, okay, if it's this difficult to break it down to us, so what happens to the everyday Kenyan who kind of doesn't understand what's happening around the world?
Yeah.
And yet climate change is the 22nd century's biggest problem.
Absolutely.
So how can we change that and how can we fix that? So that kind of set me down the journey of creating climate content for young people.
Amazing. And speaking of minority groups, I mean, the fact that you're also working with adolescent girls and of course women, and this is through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that's the Young Women and Climate Change Vodcast. And how is that for you? Because, I mean, we do understand that sometimes you really need to empower the girl child. We keep talking about this. It's so important. The fact that you're working with children as well as working with young women and adolescent girls, I feel like these two groups, they're very specific. You have a niche and I love to see it. So what was your experience like working with these girls? Do you still work with them? What are some of the projects that you've done? Or maybe you can take me through something very exciting that you have managed to do, a milestone maybe in this journey so far.
All right, okay, so let me unpack it in two phases. So here's the thing, climate change is affecting women the most, and it's going to affect children the most.
Absolutely.
If you look around, there's like...
Especially the generations to come.
Yes, exactly. And climate change is not a tomorrow problem, it's a today problem, and that's what people need to understand.
Yeah.
So first of all, Africa's youth population is the largest in the world, and therefore imagine just the possibilities there are in terms of impact if we start teaching them from a very young age how to live sustainably, which is why I'm a big believer in saying climate change should actually be taught in schools. This is because...
As a subject?
As a subject, yes. And not in the sciencey, chemistry kind of way, but in a relatable, practical way where young girls and young children across both boys and girls can learn how to live more sustainably, right? And so for me, it's becoming very important that young children, young women are the ones who are most impacted by climate change.
Yes, absolutely.
And therefore, why not empower them to not just understand climate change, but to also become advocates of climate change? So the Bill and Melinda Gates Climate Vodcast Project is an initiative that just basically empowers young women to lead climate conversation, and we teach them how to come up with their own podcast or vodcast and have these conversations on their own platforms. And we all know we live in a digital world. And right now, if you're not on social media, you're not on digital media, and you're not communicating the way digital media needs to be communicated, you're nowhere, right? You're not making the impact that is deserved. So we want as many young people as possible to be going onto TikTok, to be going onto Instagram, to start talking about climate change and sustainability.
Absolutely.
And so how can we ensure they do that? By giving them the right tools and skills in order for them to have these kind of conversations.
Okay.
So kids, imagine kids singing songs about sustainability and climate change. The minute they enter the workforce and become decision makers, what kind of decisions are they going to make? Likely decisions that are good for our planet.
Yes.
But then if we all wait for us to get into the workforce, and then climate change is this distant, difficult thing that is so complex, no change is going to, that no one understands, no change is going to be made. So in order for us to make the biggest impact, we need to target children, and we need to target young women. And young women are directly affected by climate change on their health. Do you know climate change actually directly impacts your reproductive health, for example? So those are things a lot of people don't know or understand.
It affects your cycle as well.
It affects your cycle. It affects how much you even break out. Cases of hormonal imbalance are on the rise now. Climate change is at the root of all those things.
Yeah.
So this information is not just important, it's imperative. And if something is affecting your health, shouldn't you be able to do something about it and even go onto social media and talk about it and be empowered? So my work is really driven by that. And so when I was founding the African Cool Kid, which I did last year, the idea was really to simplify climate conversations as much as possible.
Okay.
I want you to think about the mzee in the village, right? That mzee knows more about politics than most people, right?
Yes.
And when he goes to the barber shop, he spends 4 hours talking about policy, governance, and economics, all at the same time without even realizing it.
Yeah.
That's what climate conversations need to become.
Absolutely.
Unscripted, relatable, conversational, so that dinner time we're talking about, oh yeah, have you noticed that we have, more trees now?
Yeah.
And I think people need to understand climate change is not just growing trees and saving the environment.
No.
All of us, even you, Shiksha Arora, you can use your platform and your skills, dancing, for example, music, art, to actually raise awareness around these issues and help people live more sustainably.
Brilliant. I love how passionate you are, because it just goes on to show that we need more people like you who have the same amount of passion to be able to start such conversations and, drive these conversations home, especially at a time now when more than ever, we need to be talking about climate change because of the impact and the effects it's having globally. So Bilha, we've got some good news that you are one of the 2 Kenyans who are actually a part of the African Youth Climate Finance Fellowship. That's going to be running for 9 months. It started in January, and you are actually one of the 2 Kenyans. So how does it feel? Firstly, congratulations. Thank you for representing us out there. We absolutely love to hear this.
Thank you.
And what exactly are you doing in this fellowship, and why is it so important?
Okay, so the Africa Youth Climate Finance Fellowship is an initiative by African Climate Ambassadors Program and Jacob's Ambassadors Program that is empowering young people. So there's about 30 Africans from Comoros, Ethiopia, Uganda, Tanzania, all represented on the table. And the idea is for us to not just get the tools to combat climate change, but to understand the money behind climate change. So just to put this into context, imagine going for dinner and then you had a salad. Everybody else had a steak, meat, chicken, all of that stuff. And then you're stuck with the biggest bill at the end of the night, right? We decide, okay, we are splitting the bill equally amongst us, and somebody had a Prosecco, for example, or champagne, and I just had water and a salad. Does that seem fair to you?
No.
Exactly. So that's exactly what climate finance is all about.
Okay.
5% at the moment, Africa is most affected by climate change, despite the fact that it has contributed least to the problem. So what does that mean? If only less than 5% of the global climate finance is coming to Africa, how are we supposed to solve the problems that we didn't even create to begin with?
Absolutely.
So,
because you actually mentioned a very, very important point, because the truth is that most of these issues have come from the West, right? That's the root cause of all these climate change issues that we're seeing, and climate change in general. Because here, yes, fine, we don't live as sustainably as we could possibly, but I feel like in terms of the big corporates, in terms of the industries, the carbon emissions, the deforestation, I feel like we are at a much lower rate in comparison to the West.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. And yet, we are the most affected by climate change. And even worse, people who live below the poverty line are being displaced, losing their homes.
In fact, today I was at Nakuru, and it's interesting that you mentioned Kibera, because you said that during the droughts they lost their homes and livelihoods. Same thing here at Nakuru. Today we went there and we're doing a piece there, which you'll be seeing soon, by the way, if you're watching right now. So watch out for that feature next week. But apart from that, it's interesting to see that these people are still going about their lives like nothing has happened. Yes, they've been affected in the most drastic way, and these are things that they did not deserve, because they did not start any of these. Do you know, it's so sad to see that they're the ones suffering the most, while they had nothing to do with what is going on.
Exactly, and that's exactly why that needs to change. And how does that change? We are changing the conversation from one of give us money, give us money.
Okay.
The fellowship is empowering young people across Africa to understand what climate finance means. How can we bring investments to Africa and not just get foreign aid, but also private investment? How can we start funding the projects we're doing, monetizing the projects so that we can make money out of them? The green economy is huge.
Right.
It's not just about you know, saving the planet. You can actually make a lot of money from coming up with innovations, green innovations to help the planet. So how do we then get empowered to understand how climate finance works, so that when we're having these discussions around investments in Africa, we are empowered. We're not just asking for aid or help.
Yes.
So that's what the fellowship is all about. It's exciting. I'm learning a lot about Africa, and it's interesting because all our climate problems, by the way, are the same. Tanzania, Uganda, Comoros, we all face similar problems.
Yes.
So it's interesting to see that young people are coming together and starting
solutions.
Exactly. So an exciting fellowship. I can't wait to see what that brings in. Hopefully that means more climate investment and financing in Africa, and that more young people can actually look for opportunities in the green space. If you're an artist, and I really want to send this message across.
Okay.
Climate change is not just for scientists and engineers.
No.
We need all types of careers in order to tackle climate change. Climate change is this huge, massive problem. It's a culture problem, it's a religious problem, it's a science problem, it's a policy problem.
It's a business problem.
It's a business problem. It's a food problem, because then even when there's drought, there's no food. So even the economy is being affected. So if there are all these industries being affected, why does it seem like climate solutions are only coming from policy and science backgrounds?
Okay.
What happens then to the artists, the creatives, economists? So any young person with a skill can actually contribute to the climate challenge.
Right.
And they can use their unique skills to do this in the way in which they know how to. You don't have to learn anything new. You can actually use your unique skills to bring awareness to climate change and actually solve climate change.
Okay, thank you so much for that. We'll take a short break, and when we get back, we'll continue this conversation. It's a very interesting one. I'm talking to Bilha Biseka, who is a creative, and of course she is using her creative side to try and talk about the environment, to try and talk about climate change, and of course just continue with her advocacy in a very different and unique way, which I absolutely love. So stay tuned, we'll be right back. Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color,
All right, welcome back to the Green Warriors segment, my absolute favorite segment of tonight's show, where we talk to people who are inspiring, and of course they are the voice of change when it comes to climate action and advocacy. They're all doing it in their very unique ways, which we absolutely love to show you, our viewers. So with me right now, I have Bilha Luseka. We've been speaking about climate change, climate action, climate advocacy, but in a very different way, not the usual way of storytelling. She is a visionary, and she does it in a very creative way, which I absolutely love. So I've got a message in actually from our CEO, Mr. Mwenda Joka, and he says that he loves how you explained the whole steak and salad way. And that's exactly what we are trying to do right here on this show, by the way. We're trying to speak to people who will break climate change and climate action down in a very simple way. They'll simplify it. And, you know, there's a lot of jargon involved sometimes. It can be very complicated and complex. It's a lot of information and it's a lot to digest. So simplifying it is our mission right here, and I'm so glad that you're doing it in a very brilliant way. Thank you so much. We're really enjoying this conversation with you so far. So, you know, Bilha, maybe you can tell us more about in the upcoming projects that you have, in the near future especially. What is something that you see changing in the way we talk about climate, in the way we, you know, solve these issues, in the way we come up with solutions? Because back in the day, we had huge challenges when we would have any conversations, and especially when it came to climate change conversations, for instance, they never used to be this open, right? We used to be talking about them in closed rooms, behind closed doors, and there used to be things that everyone was so hush-hush about. No one really used to be out there and have these conversations openly. But now we see a change. But do you think in the near future, and of course in the years to come as well, things being, you know, spoken, as you said, in school preferably, we could be having a subject about climate change, or maybe at home, as you said, on the dinner table when we're talking about our favorite TV show, you know, we can actually be like talking about things like, how many trees did you plant this year or this week, or when you go and meet your family abroad? So yeah, what do you think in the coming years will be happening? Because people like you are the reason we are having such conversations. So what do you think needs to happen moving forward?
No, I love that you bring that up because it's very important.
Yes.
But just to correct a misconception,
yes.
Sustainability is not new for Africans.
Yes.
Do you know that? Sustainability is not new to us.
Absolutely.
The term sustainability is new, but sustainability in itself is not new. And just to put that into context,
yes.
If you think about us growing up, everyone had a mother who had a small garden, even if it was in an estate. And every time you would finish the bananas or the avocados or all of that, you know, food, they would be, you know, they would be thrown in the garden, and then from the garden you would take spinach and skuma wiki for the evening. I happen to be a Luya, so my mom has kept chicken for the longest time. And so you see, like now, for example, being sustainably conscious with food, for example, that's something that Africans used to do. Hand-me-downs. Growing up, you would rarely get a new outfit.
Yes.
If you have older siblings, likely that outfit is going to last 3 generations down the line. Imagine the kind of quality even of clothes, for example, that was being produced back then to enable people to wear clothes for 4 generations. So that's, again, in African moms never used to waste anything.
For sure.
My absolute favorite or worst was recycling plastic, right?
Yes.
Everyone had a fridge full of plastic ice cream plastic
I was
containers.
just going to say that. Those ice cream containers that still, by the way, are in my mom's fridge. And every time I open the fridge and I see a plastic container that has, you know, printed with an ice cream label, I just pick it out knowing it's not ice cream, there's something else in there. And most of the time there's peas in there.
Peas, beans, githeri.
Yes,
so imagine a hot day, you've come out from playing and you've come back in, and it's like, Ebu, bring that githeri from the fridge.
Yeah, and you go looking for it, but it's not there because it's in the ice cream container.
Exactly. Thrifting, before thrifting was thrifting, market days meant we used to go to Kamba market to get clothes, right? And although that's a whole other conversation about Africa being a dumping site for clothes and all of those things, a lot of that has changed. And because Africans want to look cooler and we want to...
Because we're adapting a lot of the things that we see happening in the West.
Yes.
And now, obviously, life is moving in a very fast pace way, because back in the day, I feel like things were slower. We had this slow living kind of mentality, especially here in Africa. But now we're adapting to what the West are doing, and we want to modernize. And we want to just be cool.
Exactly. Yeah. And that was our mistake to begin with. So how do we solve climate change? How can young people solve climate change?
Yeah.
By going back to what made Africans Africa. Our roots, our culture, the very things that made us African, you know, the things that our moms have grown us up with, you know. Those are the things that need to be brought back, so that even when we are fighting these things at a higher level, you living slower, you checking on your consumption. Yes. For example, how many clothes are you buying? Do you need to be buying that many number of clothes?
Even things like washing clothes, you know, you don't need to wash a pair of jeans every time you wear it for an hour or 2 hours. I remember this from my mom, actually. She used to tell me that don't wash jeans unless you see a brown patch on them. You have to keep re-wearing them and wearing them, so that's how you save water, because every single day you wear the same jeans for just an hour or 2 hours when you go out of the office, or, you know, unless obviously you've had an entire day. So these are the things that, you have a great point there.
Exactly. So us living slower, living more sustainably, living healthier will not just save us money, it will actually contribute to Africa being greener, right? Africa being green comes very naturally to us. But if we continue adopting the ways of the West, the beaches that we love, the forests that we love, clothes that are being dumped in beaches in Ghana, for example. Even here in Kenya, in Dandora, clothes are being dumped, and that's because we are buying clothes that we don't need. Chinese clothes are being imported into the country. You at cheap prices, you keep buying and amassing. Please, girl, you don't need a new outfit for the Rurashi on Saturday. You have a dress in your wardrobe that works just fine.
Like, if you're talking to me, just tell me. If you're addressing me right now, just say it. Just say, Shiksha, I'm telling you, you don't need a new outfit for every occasion.
So I think that's where we begin.
Okay.
That's how we start slowly solving this climate challenge, not looking at it from such a high level.
So basically things like recycling.
Yes.
Reusing.
Yes.
Okay.
And just thinking about it like that. How can I simplify my life, live slower? The good news is actually sustainability improves your own life.
Yes.
It saves you money. You live happier, greener, slower life. And who doesn't want that, right? So that's where young people can begin by starting to look at areas in their lives that they can just start living a bit more sustainably.
Okay.
But also at a higher level, because there are problems to be solved, obviously. I think that the next frontier, or what the next frontier looks like, is having a more inclusive climate change conversation. What does that look like? It's what I've been talking about. All kinds of people, climate change conversations not being in closed doors, but just being more inclusive, normal, you know, conversations that we can have regardless of what kind of expertise you have, who you are. You're having those climate change conversations not because you're thinking, oh, an expert is coming to solve that problem for me.
Yes.
African youth are very innovative. When we care, and the important word here is when we care. Unfortunately, climate change is so complex right now that young people are very disengaged from climate change.
Absolutely.
I went to a storytelling workshop the other day and I asked young people, oh, how many here know about climate change and how do you feel about it? It was dead in the room.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of work to be done. The good news is a lot of young people, and even the ones you featured on this show thus far, are actually taking an interest in climate change, and we're being curious.
Yes.
So the more accessible climate change can be, the more we can talk about it on social media, on your TikTok, on your WhatsApp. We are having conversations about living sustainably. The better we are placed in solving this challenge, so that also Africa is not this needy, you know, place where money is being brought to solve our problems. We're actually equal players in the market. And Africa's resource alone can solve 80% of the world's climate challenges.
Yeah, I actually read an article similar to what you're saying. And it's crazy to see the importance that we have as a continent, and of course the strength and power that we hold within our borders, just to see that if we were able to solve a problem, imagine you're actually solving an entire world's problem. It's not just Africa. you know, it's not just the continent, it's the world as a whole. So it's very interesting that you mentioned this.
And so we have a lot of power as Africans. Yes. It's not that we're waiting for money to be sent to us to solve our problems. The more we understand what's happening to us, the better we will get onto the table with, then we are coming up with innovative solutions to these problems that we are facing. And then we are saying, we have X resources. In order for us to give you guys those resources, we need X amount of money that will then elevate our projects at certain levels. Yeah. So just empowering young people as much as possible, helping them understand climate change so it's not such a scary subject, making it fun, cool, and exciting so that you don't feel like you're in a chemistry class learning about fossil fuels and biodiversity. Facts. That is the beginning. Hopefully, I'd love to see change happen a lot faster, but we can only do our work and hope that it works at the end of the day. And as long as each of us is doing something small to help us live more sustainably, reducing plastic, recycling,
eating less red meat,
using reusable water bottles instead of buying plastic water bottles.
For lower periods
Please,
of
girls,
time.
we don't need to be in the shower for 45 minutes because then also water is becoming a huge problem.
Absolutely.
So those small ways we can start caring about climate change, then we can start solving these things slowly and slowly. Brilliant. And also there's a lot of opportunity in the green space. There's money to be made in the green space. So young people,
there's this whole conversation of carbon credits and what exactly carbon credits is. And every time I go on the internet, there's always a job being advertised for a consultant or of a huge corporate is looking for somebody who can actually, I guess, handle that particular sector. And as you mentioned, there's huge opportunities in the green space. People don't really know about it. People haven't really tapped into it. There's a lot of potential to make money. So these are things that we as Africans need to really look into, because at the end of the day, I feel like this is like a unexplored territory that really it's like a gold mine that we're sitting on.
So one of my ambitious goals is to get climate education taught in schools. So informing policy to the point where we can start having conversations about having climate change and sustainability taught in schools. If we can learn Fasihi and chemistry and algebra, things that we rarely end up using in life, if we're being honest, I think adding space for sustainability and climate change, something that's actually impacting our lives, is not actually as far-fetched as we imagine. It's not such a radical idea. If AI needs to be taught in school, so does sustainability and climate change. So a climate festival would also be awesome, where young people who are passionate about climate change and sustainability can come, share, and engage with ideas. And that's where my vision is going to take me, to just have spaces where young people can come and collaborate so that we can share ideas around how we can solve the climate challenge.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Bilha Luseka. I've really enjoyed this conversation with you, and I really do hope that there's more people out there who are watching this who'll also get inspired just the way you got inspired when you went on ground and you interacted with somebody. I hope a viewer or two or even 10, if you're watching this and you've listened to what Bilha has been talking about and how important it is to act on the current problem that we're having. It's a crisis. The climate crisis is something that will affect all of us, generations to come especially, but as of now, it is affecting us, and it's a reality that we need to face and we need to act on as soon as possible. It doesn't have to be planting 50 trees tomorrow, but something small, just do something, and that's what we're trying to do over here. We're trying to initiate people to actually do small things, as small as they seem. They really aren't, because collectively they will make a change, right? At the end of the day.
Absolutely. And young people cannot afford to ignore climate change 100%. It's not a tomorrow problem, it's a today problem.
It is, just as she said. So I'm not sure if the video is ready. There was a video that I wanted to play for you. It is obviously Bilha's video. I don't know if it's ready. Maybe my director can tell me. All right, we have it. Let's just watch that video.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. My name is
Bilha Luseka from Nairobi, Kenya. I am a Zile.
And that's the end of our conversation right here. Thank you so much. What a great video. I love how creative it is. You really are a creative person, I've seen. Have that, influencer, content creator vibe to you, which I absolutely love. I'm digging it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. And I hope that this
Yes, I was just
continues.
going to say that. I was just going to say that we'd love to have you in future as well. I hope that this isn't the last time that we're interacting and we're engaging. I would hope that you would come back again and maybe we could discuss some other topic. Yeah. Maybe carbon credits at some point. It's a lot, but I feel like you are the right person to simplify it. Okay. Because I feel like that's an area that hasn't really been simplified for people, and there's a lot of misunderstanding, there's a lot of misconceptions, and there's a lot of things that people really still don't know about carbon credits. So maybe you can be the one to just, dissect that for us one by one, and we hope that you can come back to the show. But thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being our green warrior. As always, keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
All right. Moving on, let's just take a look at what's happening when it comes to climate news. Now, residents of a crowded slum in India's western Gujarat state have transformed hundreds of their homes by painting their roofs with white reflective paint as the hottest time of the year approaches. And this initiative, which involves 400 households in Gujarat's largest city of Ahmedabad, that uses a special type of white paint containing highly reflective pigments, such as titanium dioxide. Now, these pigments reflect more of the sun's radiation back to the atmosphere, preventing heat absorption. The project is also part of a global scientific trial aimed at studying how indoor heat impacts health and economic outcomes in developing countries, and investigating how cool roofs might provide relief as the effects of climate change intensify. India's summers have grown increasingly extreme, with Ahmedabad experiencing temperatures exceeding 46 degrees Celsius in recent years. Take a look. Now, if you were watching last week, we actually did a story on the same where we talked about the climate report. And in this climate report, it mentioned that in the last 23 years that we've had a climate report in the world, 2024 was actually the hottest year ever. So I'm not sure what's going to happen in 2025 because, as you can see, India is suffering. White roofs, they're already painting roofs, and I don't know how exactly that is going to affect their lives. Well, I hope for their sake that I hope it does some good to them, and of course it brings some sort of cooling. But yeah, interesting scenes right there from India. Moving on, the city of Gulu in northern Uganda has adopted a strategy to combat the problem of plastic waste and address social problems through public-private partnerships in recycling. Now, according to environmental expert Shiksha Arora, the problem of plastic waste is global in nature, further adding that local solutions and private-public partnerships are pivotal in addressing it. In Takataka Plastics recycling facility, plastic waste goes through several processes at the recycling facility, including sorting, washing, crushing, and sieving. Okwoko noted that research showed other Ugandan companies collect plastic waste for sale to India and China.
So we are trying to create a community where members are conscious about their environment, members are able to separate waste at the source and deliver their waste to the right spaces where different players can collect the waste and then transform into reusable.
No one-size-fits-all solutions. It's a problem that is global in nature, but then locally we have to find solutions to it. Now, the strategy that the city has adopted is to collaborate with partners with different expertise and skills, bring that on the table. We've had partners like Takataka coming in place.
It was very hard because I was work on someone's place when someone called me that you come and dig for me here. I go and dig, or you come and wash for me the clothes. I go and wash. When she told me that you come and cook, you just come and take care of my kids. Then I go and take care of, and yet for me I have a kid at home.
All right, and that brings me to the end of tonight's live broadcast. Thank you so much for watching. I've definitely had quite an insightful evening, learning from our Green Warrior tonight, Bilha Luseka. Aside from that, also giving you the latest when it comes to what's happening in the country, politics, business, sports, and much more. Remember, this is where we do it all. TV47, The Daily Report. I am Shiksha Arora. We'll do this again next week on Thursday, same time, same place. Until then, stay safe, good night, and I'll see you then. Bye.